Your kid climbs into the back seat after school and immediately starts talking. Fast, excited, breathless. They've invented a whole story at recess using action figures and notebook paper. There's a hero with a secret past, a villain who isn't really evil, just misunderstood, and a dramatic twist involving a hamster who saves everyone at the last second. They explain every scene in order. They do the voices. They pause to make sure you're following. They repeat parts so you really get it. You nod. You say wow at the right moments. But your brain checked out. Your eyes flick to your phone at stoplights. Your mm-hms sound the same no matter what happens in the story. You don't ask anything that would require you to actually understand the plot. Here's the part most parents miss. They weren't asking you to care about the story. They were checking whether you actually like them. Kids can survive rules they don't like. Bedtimes, chores, vegetables. What's much harder to survive is the feeling that you're an obligation, managed, corrected, funded, but not enjoyed. Parenting comes with loving your kid. That's automatic. Liking them is different. Liking means enjoying their company, wanting to be around them, choosing them. Love to a kid feels built in. It comes with the house and the groceries and the ride to school. Like is voluntary. Like says, I'd hang out with you even if I didn't have to. Watch a kid's face when a parent really laughs at their joke. Not the polite parent chuckle, but an actual laugh. Their whole body lights up. In that moment, they're not your responsibility, they're your entertainment. There's a reason that moment matters. Sociometer theory says self-esteem works like a gauge. It reflects how desirable we believe we are to other people. When kids believe their parents genuinely like them, their brains learn something powerful. I'm worth choosing. And most parents don't mean to mess this up, but they do in small ways every day. The phone test is the biggest one. Your kid walks into the kitchen while you're scrolling. They start talking. You keep scrolling. They slow down. They stop. That was the test, and you just failed it. Kids notice that you can look at hundreds of photos of strangers' lunches, but can't look up for their story about recess. They see you respond to work emails in seconds, but take days to comment on their drawing taped to the fridge. Your attention is currency, and they're tracking the exchange rate. Research on technoference shows that when parents use screens around children, interactions drop, and parents become less responsive. A Pew study found that about 68% of parents say they're distracted by their phone when spending time with their kids. Where your eyes are sends a message. In that moment, your eyes are saying something else is more interesting than them. But it's not just about putting the phone down. It's about what happens when you do engage. There's an enthusiasm gap kids are incredibly sensitive to. Your child tells you they learned how to make glow-in-the-dark slime. You respond with, "That's nice," while mentally running through tomorrow's meetings. What they hear isn't neutrality. They hear, "Your interests bore me, but I'm being polite." Parents show up for the big stuff. Games, recitals, conferences. They sleepwalk through the small stuff, the rambling stories, the niche obsessions, the 40-minute explanation of why a YouTuber is secretly a genius. Kids are enthusiasm detectives. Real interest has movement, follow-up questions, specific reactions. How does it glow? Can it be different colors? Is that why the sink looks radioactive? Research from Cambridge found that when parents respond to children's emotions early in life, closeness develops, and that closeness predicts kindness and helpfulness years later. This is the quiet math that decides whether they call you at 25 or just text on mandatory holidays. Then there's comparison, which does damage fast. Your kid quits piano after a few months. Sigh. That sigh gets filed as evidence. I'm disappointing. Why can't you be more like your cousin who plays 3 instruments and speaks Mandarin? A lot of parents compare, thinking it will motivate. What it actually teaches is that your child isn't enough as they are. Kids notice every spark in your voice when you talk about the neighbor's kid you got into an elite school, every drop in energy when they talk about what they care about. They're keeping score, and the score says, "I'm not the child you ordered." Research shows parental comparison directly lowers self-worth because kids internalize the idea that love and liking are conditional. Another one looks harmless. Your kid says, "Someone dared a boy at lunch to eat a bug." You immediately launch into a lecture on hygiene, protein sources, and why that's a bad idea. And they're gone. Mentally, they left the room. This is the judgment-free zone problem. Kids are constantly running risk assessments. Can I tell my parent this without it turning into a lesson, without it becoming a referendum on my character? This doesn't mean no boundaries. It means not every conversation needs fixing, teaching, or correcting. When kids believe you genuinely like them, they'll tell you real things because they trust you can handle their reality without turning it into a performance review. Psychology research shows that when people feel their emotions matter, they internalize that they themselves matter. You're teaching them they're safe with you. When they do share their real selves, what builds real credibility is celebrating the weird stuff, the achievements that won't go in the holiday card. You memorized every dinosaur species. That's serious data retention. You built a fort that defies basic physics. You're an engineering pioneer. You convinced your sibling they're allergic to vegetables. Ethically questionable, but strategically impressive. When you celebrate what makes your child uniquely them, not just what makes them impressive on paper, you're saying their specific flavor of human is worth enjoying, that their weirdness isn't something to tolerate until it passes, but something interesting right now. There's a move that flips the entire dynamic, and most parents forget it exists. Let them be the expert. You've been the authority their whole life, but when you say, "Show me how this works," something shifts. Teach me the rules of your game. Explain why this song is good. Walk me through your imaginary world. You're not pretending to be clueless. You're acknowledging that they know things you don't, and that their knowledge has value. You're saying, "You're interesting enough to teach me." Research on authoritative parenting shows that when parents respect a child's sense of competence and ownership, kids develop more internal motivation and healthier coping skills. None of this works without time, and not the kind parents like to call quality time. Liking someone requires knowing them, not their stats, their height, grades, shoe size, their internal world, what makes them laugh until they can't breathe, what they think about when they can't sleep, what scares them, and what makes them feel brave. That kind of knowing comes from quantity time, boring time, time where nothing special happens except you're together, where conversations wander from school to space to whether hot dogs count as sandwiches. Research consistently shows that the more time parents spend with their children, the more warmth those children feel. Closeness doesn't come from intensity, it comes from repetition. You're teaching them their company is something you actually enjoy. When you put the phone down, show real curiosity, celebrate their odd interests, let them lead sometimes, and invest actual time, something important happens. The mirror effect. Kids who believe their parents genuinely like them start liking themselves. Not in an inflated way, but in a grounded, secure way. When you laugh at their jokes, they learn they're funny. When you ask their opinion, they learn they're worth listening to. When you choose to spend time with them, they learn they're worth choosing. Over time, this compounds. Kid who knows they're liked becomes the teen who chooses better friends. That teen becomes an adult who expects respect in relationships. Large studies across dozens of countries show strong links between parent-child relationship quality and adult well-being. People who felt close to their parents growing up tend to feel more secure in all their relationships later. Because here's the part most parents don't see until it's painfully quiet. Whether your kid thinks you like them determines your relationship forever. The adult child who calls regularly usually felt enjoyed, not just loved. The one who shows up only out of obligation felt tolerated. Eventually, the obligation part ends. They don't have to talk to you anymore. They'll only choose to if you believe you actually enjoy who they are. So when your kid launches into another long explanation of their latest obsession, remember this: they're not asking you to care about the thing. They're asking if you care about them, if you like the person who loves the thing. And once you start genuinely liking your kid, not just loving them, parenting shifts. It becomes less about managing and more about discovering, less about shaping and more about witnessing. That's what every child wants, to be liked for exactly who they are. Hamsters, action figures, glow-in-the-dark slime, and all.